Hello. I wanted to start this video with a big disclaimer. I am not a pro, okay? I'm just a guy that wanted to play this deck and didn't see any recent deck guides for it, and went ahead, played the deck a lot online, and wanted to give you some tips and feedback on what I've learned over the course of the past 100. But I want to make that clear. Like, I don't have any credentials behind my name. I've done well in local set championships in the past, and I will show you where I'm at on the online ladder here in a second. But beyond that, like, really, I'm just don't take my opinion too seriously. Let me know where I'm wrong. Let me know where I'm right. I want to get better just as you do by based off the fact that you're here. Okay, so the game plan for this video is I'll have four basic parts. One, I'm just going to show you the basic stats that I have on best of ones on the online ladder, show you what my matchup spread has been looking like. Can't guarantee that's what your experience will be, but I'll talk a little bit about that. Two, I'll go into the deck itself, explain the overarching idea behind it, but then dig into each individual card and explain like kind of its role and purpose. And then three, I'll go into a little bit of the matchups and talk a little bit about a couple thoughts I have on various things you should keep in mind when facing against different decks. And then four, I'll go through some mulligan examples and give some thoughts there. Okay, I wanted to show this real quick. This is my statistics on the best of ones that I've played with this deck. I've played exactly 100 best of ones, and I've won 67 of them. As you can see, obviously, as expected, we are stronger on the play than on the draw. And here is how I've done against the various decks. I cannot say how much of this is just me personally being bad against certain decks versus the deck being good against certain decks, but it is interesting to look at nonetheless. As you can see, I feel pretty good against the Emerald Amber matchup, which is obviously critically important considering the fact that it's generally considered the best deck in the format. And so that is a notable point of why maybe you want to play this deck in set championships or otherwise. I've only played 8 games against Green Steel, but that is not looking great. And of course, Green Steel is also becoming a much more popular deck recently. And so I don't know, but maybe that's a small sample size and maybe I just don't know the strats. And so, yeah. But yeah, I ended my climb here. I mean, some of this is with other decks as well, but in the epic MMR range with a 1701. So yeah, that's the basic statistics that I just wanted to glance over. So I'm going to show you two deck lists. The first deck list that we're going to be looking at is the deck list that I originally found, which is the CCQ second place by Habibi. And then I'll also be showing you my deck list that I ended up coming with some adjustments to this deck list based on some of my preferences. And I'll also be going over a few other like tech options that you may want to consider. I'm sure you already understand the basic game plan of the deck, but I wanted to go through that real quick. Of course, the basic game plan is to get out these early singers of Angel and Ursula and be able to sing out Akud to get some high cost units out early, and also be able to sing lots of removal spells to go hand in hand to be able to keep their board clear while being able to build up your board in the meantime. Okay, shifting over to my deck list because I obviously know it better because I played with it more. Going through a couple basic lines that you'll be looking at as you play this deck. Of course, turn one, you'll want to develop a Stitch or a Lilo, which opens up the Lilo and Stitch shift line, which the opponent has to be very aware of as it can lead to some early supports and to some really good trades. It can also just lead to some really aggressive questing early. On turn two, you would generally want to establish one of the singers. And then on turn three, you can Akud with your singer and be able to develop one of your 5-drops. Notably, you can develop Ariel and immediately boost her, or you can develop Stitch. I love getting both of these out early as it allows you to set up your draw engine and be able to get consistent value. Especially Stitch Carefree Snowboarder, it's got such a beefy stat line that you'll be able to quest and draw cards, and the opponent will either have to trade in units or will have to allow you to just draw a couple more cards for a couple more turns before they can find a better answer for it. Additionally, now that we have these early singers out, if we don't have a Akud, we can start singing out our removal spells, He Hurled His Thunderball or Strength of Raging Fire, and be able to remove their key threats so that way we can continue to develop our board while they lose their key pieces that they were trying to set up. And that's one thing I want to know why I like this deck is that it has the potential to do really broken, busted stuff with a Cood, but it also has the ability to just shut down your opponent if they're going for a crazy Circle of Life, combo of some form. You're able to kill their singers with these damage removal spells and be able to not only be able to do your own broken, busted thing, but have the potential to stop your opponent from doing their broken, busted thing as well. If you don't have an Akut or wasn't able to set up a Singer on turn 2, playing down a 3-drop works great. You'll notice perhaps that our 3-drop count is a little bit low. This is because Akut into a 5-drop happens commonly. Additionally, the Lilo and Stitch serves as a 3-drop commonly as well when you shift 3. Which brings up another good line that I want to chuck in here. Turn 1, you can play a Stitch or Lilo. Turn 2, you'll set up a Singer. Turn 3, you can shift on Lilo and Stitch. You quest and support up one of their opposing key threats, and seeing World's Greatest Criminal Mind to immediately remove that threat. From there, you really want to keep continued control over the board and be able to establish one of your consistent draw engines in the form of Ariel or Stitch or Goliath as a way to continue to draw cards and be able to fuel your hand, to be able to play more removal spells, to be able to continue to keep control of the board. A notable line that I wanted to chuck in here as well is developing a 1-drop into a 2-drop Singer, but not having any removal songs. But then on turn 3, you can play a Mei Ling Li to be able to dig, find a song, and be able to immediately sing it on that turn if it fits the situation. But yeah, hopefully that gives you an overarching idea of what basic lines you'll want to do on your first few turns, as well as overall the concept and goal of the deck. I'm now going to shift into talking more about each individual card and how they play a role and why I like them and why I include them in the deck list. To start off, we have our 1-drops, which we'll notice I added in 2 Lilo Snow Artists that the CCQ deck did not have. I just found I really liked having a 1-drop more often. Of course, when you're going second, Angel becomes a 1-drop, but I really hated missing my 1-drop so often, and so I included a couple Lilos in here as well compared to the CCQ deck list. The main purpose, of course, of this Lilo and of this Stitch is to serve as a shift target for Lilo and Stitch. This is a really important part of the deck. Lilo and Stitch is a really, really strong card that can quest very aggressively, but also be able to support up and cause World's Greatest Criminal Mind to be able to remove all sorts of units. Also be able to support up your own units to be able to swing in, make your Ursula be able to punch in for a lot, make your Mowgli, I've never said that name out loud, I guess, be able to trade really effectively. And so these, their basic purpose is purely for the shift line. There are a couple other notable synergies here that I wanted to make note of with the Stitch specifically. It is specifically the Lilo and the Pleakley, the other alien synergies that we have going on in the deck. In the CCQ version, you see higher counts of both of these cards, and so you might want to try experimenting with that to see how that feels. Because the Lilo on play gives Challenger +2, that of course makes Stitch be able to trade a lot more cleanly and a lot more effectively, or not even die at all because the 3 health on Stitch is very notable. Additionally, Pleakley, of course, will draw you a card if you have this Stitch out in play, which is also very, very notable. Angel, I think, is a star of the deck. Of course, making you go second just feel way better when you get an Angel out into play and you can sing a Cood or be able to sing an early strength to remove a key threat of theirs. An important thing I want to note about Angel, though, is in my mind, Angel was always if I'm going second, this card is good. But this card is actually really good if you're going first as well and you need a 2-drop Singer. Because Ursula, you're not going to see Ursula every single time. But Angel works just as well. Of course, Angel cannot sing Hero This Thunderbolt, which is, of course, notably worse, but can still sing Akud, which is very important, and sing Strength of Raging Fire, which is also very important. And so don't just send away your Angels if you're going first. Angel is still a very strong 2-drop if you don't have an Ursula in hand. Another thing I want to note about Angel versus Ursula, which I actually caught in a smart play that I hadn't even considered until I was watching a stream earlier today at the 50K event that's happening today and tomorrow, is Angel has 2 strength compared to Ursula's 1, which is very notable when you're fighting the Amber Emerald aggro deck because many of their one drops, such as specifically Aurora and Pluto, both have 2 health, which make Ursula punching into it way more awkward. But Angel can punch into it and clear them up and threaten that, which is very important. And so in that case, Angel might even be better on the play compared to Ursula against that specific matchup. It can help out there. Last thing I wanted to note about Angel real quick is I feel like on the draw, you of course play turn 1, and you could be so tempted to immediately accude on turn 2 because you're like, whoa, I got it out on turn 2. However, and that is good and that is strong. However, if you have a strong 5-drop, it is sometimes just worth waiting an extra turn to sing out your accued. So keep that in mind. Don't get too trigger happy to sing accued on turn 2. It is sometimes worth just waiting until turn 3, as that way you can establish a 5-drop instead. So just keep that in mind. Okay, Mowgli is of course your classic disruption card here. It can serve a lot of different purposes in a lot of different ways. Like early game, it could disrupt and get rid of their accued so they can't do accued things. Later in the game, it can get rid of raging storms to be able to protect you in that case. It can also get rid of key items from their hand as well, which is a notable advantage to it compared to Ursula, is it can get rid of things such as Webby's Diary or Retro Evolution Device. It can also get rid of either Touch the Sky or Paradise Fall, which is great for breaking up that combo. And of course, it can remove removal spells as well. If you're fighting against a different steel deck, they're likely to have copies of Strength of the Raging Fire or You Hurl This Thunderbolt. It is great to just get rid of those and be able to protect your units that way. I don't really know if I need to expand much of why Ursula is here. It is, of course, our key singer that sings all of our songs and is great for singing He Hurled His Thunderbolt specifically because it's the singer 4. It's a really, really good card that really fits into the whole steel song style, right? Keepies. Malin Lee, of course, fantastic card that consistently finds you the songs you need when you need them. Of course, this is extremely powerful simply because you have these early singers and you have these really powerful songs. But I think additionally, it's particularly powerful with the aerial. I think sometimes you play down your aerial, you boost her up, but you just don't have songs in your hand. But Malin Lee allows you to set up consistent turns where you can play a Malin Lee, draw a card because you drew this song card. Now you can sing this song. Aerial draws you a card, and then you keep rolling from there. Fleekly, I feel, serves as a form of glue in the deck, just giving you another consistent way to draw cards until you can set up a consistent draw engine. Additionally, it's just great to establish a healthy bodied 3-cost singer out on the board. That is a little bit more difficult for the opponent to remove. On top of that, I feel like the 4 health is also notable for synergies with support with Lilo and Stitch and with Lilo Best Explorer Ever, giving him Challenger +2. With his 4 health, he's able to swing into things such as Eleanor and be able to survive that, which is very notable. Lilo Best Explorer Ever, I think, is a very interesting card, and it's definitely one that you should play with to get a better feel of its power. I think initially it can feel a little weak as a 2/2/1 stat line on a 3-drop body. However, the instant Challenger +2 can be very notable to allow you to trade into big units. And on top of that, I think the very notable part of this card is the other effect, that when it quests, you can make an alien get Challenger +2 and punch readied characters. This allows you to do really, really strong moves like questing with Lilo Best Explorer Ever, giving your Pleakley Challenger +2, and you can challenge that readied Eleanor. It's really, really good. Lilo Best Explorer Ever also combos really well with Angel Experiment 624 because Angel gets resist +2 when you have no cards in hand. And this can lead to board states where you have a Lilo and an Angel out on the board, and everything they play, you can just quest with Lilo, give Angel support or Challenger +2 and be able to challenge into their unit they just played, be able to live just fine because of resist +2, and be able to kill it before it gets to do anything. It's really, really strong. Okay, now I feel like we're really getting to the meat of the deck because this higher end is really, really strong and is just fantastic to get out early with a Cood. This is where the deck comes together. An Aerial is specifically a primary card draw engine for your deck. You do not, it plus Stitch and plus Goliath in my case. The CCQ did not have Goliath. Goliath is something that I've been trying out and I've been enjoying. But these cards are your primary card draw engines. You want to be really careful not to end up with your hand in a spot where you ink every single one of your card draw engines. It can be tempting to look at Lilo and Stitch and be like, wow, that's a really good stat line, because it is. And ink your Stitch Carefree Snowboarder, but you're going to need to draw cards. And so you want to be really careful to not ink away all your card draw engines. And if you do, you have enough glue of Pleakley and Malin Lee to be able to keep your hand full enough until you can find another one. The notable thing about Ariel is you can draw cards the same turn compared to Stitch Carefree Snowboarder. You have to wait a turn to be able to draw a card. And so that's something that I found came up quite a few times and something you want to keep in mind. But yeah, Ariel, just super important card to the deck. It is a primary card draw engine and is incredibly important because of that fact. Okay, Angel Experiment 624, really important card as well. I think it's worth even considering upping this count to 4 because of how many Amber Emeralds you're likely to see at said championships, because this card in particular is a key piece to winning that matchup. Of course, Angel is not good in every single matchup, which is why it's only a 3 count in my current deck list. But in that specific matchup and in other spots, it can be extremely powerful. And of course, Akud can let you get your Angel out even earlier, which can really just shut down some scenarios. Of course, Angel is a very card-hungry card, and so you want to be really careful about, is it worth giving up this resource now to put out this fire, but then potentially inhibit my ability in the future? Of course, in many scenarios, specifically against Amber Emerald, the answer is yes, put out that fire. Like, you need to stop them. You need to slow them down and take control of the board as quick as you can. And although it's card hungry, of course, once you dump your hand, it gets resist +2, which is extremely notable and can just continue to just like take control over the board. And so, yeah, it's just extremely strong against aggro, and Akud allows you to get it out even earlier if necessary. And so it's really important for those matchups in particular, but not as great in other matchups, but can still do some really good stuff. Gaston and World's Greatest Criminal Mind I'll talk about here briefly at the same time. Of course, they both just act as more removal for the deck and combo well with the support from Lilo and Stitch. World's Greatest Criminal Mind, of course, having the song synergies with Ariel and Malin Lee, and of course being able to be sung by our singers. And Gaston, of course, just being on a body, which is also helpful. These cards can either do nothing or remove a key threat. And so you really want to pay attention to what you think the opponent has in hand or what deck you're fighting against, and be able to keep these or just ink them depending on the scenario. Lilo and Stitch, of course, such a core piece of the deck, being able to shift on early, being able to quest aggressively, being able to support up and get the synergy with World's Greatest Criminal Mind and Gaston, being able to support up your own units and trade in effectively. It just does everything. It's really, really strong. I'm not sure if I need to expand much more than that. Also, don't forget that it can shift onto your 3-cost Lilo as well. Don't forget that. Okay, I'm going to speed through these last cards because this has been taking longer than I had initially planned. But Stitch, Carefree Surfer, is, of course, another big card draw engine, and Goliath as well can serve as that. So be careful when inking these cards. They are very important to getting your card draw engine going. If you ink all of them, then you might just run out of cards. And so be careful with that. Goliath, a notable thing with Goliath as well, is if you can Akud them out, it depends on the scenario, but you can Akud it out and get it early enough where you can actually force your opponent to discard cards. So something definitely worth keeping in mind. And of course, our last couple cards is, of course, 4 copies of both the steal removal spells that are just critical to our entire game plan of keeping their board clear, of the song synergy in general, just very key, very important for obvious reasons. Okay, shifting over to the matchups, I only have some basic thoughts on a few different matchups. This isn't going to be crazy in depth or anything. I'm just going to give a couple baseline thoughts of a couple things you should be thinking about. Circle of Life, a big thing in this deck, and a thing that murders our deck is this Chernabog. Okay, you want to be really careful here. If you turn 1 Lilo, turn 2 Singer turn 3 shift on Lilo, and then they Akud out a Chernabog, I feel like you just lose on the spot. So it is sometimes better to just go 1, 2, 3, and so don't try to give them incredible Chernabog options because like Chernabog's stat line is actually really good for us because it dies to Hero this Thunderbolt and it dies to World's Greatest Criminal Mind. And so like the body isn't that like concerning, but it can just ruin us by getting rid of our Stitch or our Lilo and Stitch. And so this card can, especially when Aku'd out, especially when you Aku'd out something early, but then they just like Chernabog and get rid of it, it can be devastating. So try to play around this card. I think this is actually one reason why on the stream today I saw the Amber Steel player play with Infra Pink Ultra Scan specs because they get to draw a card and discard a card. So you can actually get a character card in the discard, which just makes Chernabog way better to deal with. Additionally, this card gives your characters alert, which can be a problem for our deck, is getting rid of all these evasive cards. And so I think this is definitely a really cool tech card that is 100% worth considering. Yeah, the other important thing in this matchup is just to kill their singers, try to prevent as many singing lines as possible. If you're able to sufficiently shut down their singers, there's not much they can do. Additionally, try playing around Under the Sea, and Mowgli is also very strong in this matchup. We've kind of already talked about Princess Aggro matchup. The key parts are Angel is really strong and Singing Songs is really strong. Sometimes you want to be careful with your removal spells. You don't want to just slap down and hurl this Thunderbolt on a random Grandmother Willow, or because the real big threats are this Dale and are this Eleanor, in my opinion. They can just completely shift the state of the board, and Eleanor can just get their consistent card draw. And so it's really important to save some removal for this. Of course, sometimes just do what you got to do, but keep that in mind. You don't want to just always be chucking out, don't waste your removal on a Pluto or something. Additionally, if they're drawing you cards with Mike, you of course don't need to rely on your card draw engines as much, and feel free to chuck more snowballs. So that's definitely something you have to factor in as well. I don't have a ton of matchup experience versus boosties. Against Amber Amethyst, I mean, a couple basic notes. I feel like I don't have a ton here, but a couple basic notes is watch out for the Luisa Madrigal shift line because the 6 attack threshold is very notable because it can one hit our Lilo and Stitch and survive. And so really watch out when you're questing into a one drop Luisa. Be very cognizant of the shift line because it's specifically good against Lilo and Stitch. Similarly, I don't have a lot of matchup experience against the Amethyst Steel decks. I will say just keep your World's Greatest Criminal Mind and your Gastons on hand for the super big Omni Droid. Those cards just destroy it, and really big tempo swing if you can do that. Similarly, Ruby Amethyst runs a lot of 5 attack characters, and so just hold on to your, don't ink Gaston, don't ink World's Greatest Criminal Mind. Those are super good. They take out Demona, they take out Mr. Incredible, they take out Mrs. Incredible, they take out Hercules, and they take out Peter Pan and Tinkerbell. Just super valuable cards in the matchup. So don't ink those, save those. 100%. Some pretty basic advice against the Retro Device deck is just to shut down their Retro Evolution Device lines. And so if they have a 5-drop, just try to get rid of that 5-drop so that way they can't convert that into a 7-drop, etc., etc. Okay, we're going to practice some mulligans here and run through some basic thoughts that go on as I go through the mulligan process. We're going to start off by doing on the play, and we're going to assume that it's blind and we don't know what the matchup is. So here, I really like the fact that we have 1-drop and 2-drop. Lilo and Stitch serve the very similar same purpose of being a shift target, and so we're going to choose to keep Stitch, which has both the alien synergy and has more health, of course. And so definitely want to keep Stitch and keep the best singer that we have in the deck of Ursula. World's Greatest Criminal Mind is much better later in the game, so and we don't have any support. Like if we had the Shift Stitch, then we could consider keeping this because on turn 3 we could go Stitch turn 1, Ursula turn 2, then Shift Lilo and Stitch, and Quest, and then sing World's Greatest Criminal Mind. But of course we don't have that, so I'm just going to send that back. We only need one drop. Part of me thinks we could keep this for ink, and I don't think that's an awful idea. Decisions like that are still something that I think is really interesting in mulligans. Here, what I really want though, Strike the Raging Fire is another interesting one. I could see us keeping or chucking it. I like to be greedy with our mulligans because the Akud into a 5-drop is just so strong that I really dig for it. However, I could definitely see wanting to keep Strength of the Raging Fire. But me personally, I like to dig, so I'm Mulligan 5 here. Okay, looking good. So yeah, obviously we have Stitch turn 1 into an Ursula turn 2, or if they're Amber Emerald, like I referenced previously, Angel might be the better 2-drop because of its 2 attack in that matchup. But we have no songs, but that's okay. On turn 3, we can play Maylin Lee and grab a song for our Ursula to sing. Alternatively, we could shift on Lilo and Stitch and start questing away. So yeah, lots of good options here. Turn 1, I probably ink the duplicate Ursula here and just keep the Angel just in case it is Amber Emerald. Okay, here once, of course, it's great. We have a 1-drop. We don't need the second 1-drop, although, you could consider keeping it for ink, of course. However, we just really want to dig for a Akud and dig for these really strong cards that we have. We would love to keep a 2-cost Singer, but we don't need both of them. We don't need Gaston at the beginning of the game. Similarly with Stitch, Stitch would be really good if we do get a Akud, because then we could go turn 1 Stitch into turn 2 Angel, into turn 3 seeing Akud, into playing Stitch Carefree Snowboarder. However, I don't think it's worth keeping specifically for that. I'd rather try to dig for Akud more and then have other 5-drops end up in our hand anyway. Now to keep Maylin Lee is an interesting choice. I do like it here because it allows us to dig for a song that Angel could potentially use the next turn. And so I do think it's good for that reason. And I think it leads to more consistency. If we get rid of it, we might end up with a hand that doesn't have a 3-cost to play, and that would be really awkward. So I think it's worthwhile to keep this. If we're playing really greedy and we just really want to dig for a Akud and just say, nope, Akud will be our turn 3 and we don't need a 3-drop, then I guess that's an option. But I feel like probably just keep it consistent and keep Maylin Lee here. Okay, so got a song, but it's He Hurled His Thunderbolt, which we don't have Vanessa, which would be better here. But turn 1, we can ink an Angel, play a Stitch. Turn 2, we can ink, depending on the matchup, we could ink Angel, Experiment 624, play Angel, and then kind of have to play from there. Maylin Lee on turn 3, dig up a song, figure it out from there. Okay, another on the play here. We don't have a 1-drop, which definitely changes things. And so here I honestly think that I just send back all 6 of these, keep my strong 2-drop, send back all 6, look for a Akud, and look for a 1-drop is really what we're digging for here. And we got a Akud. We didn't get a 1-drop, unfortunately, but that's fine. Like, we are still looking pretty solid here with the Akud and the Ursula. I think we ink the World's Greatest Criminal Mind and just pass. Alternatively, we could ink our duplicate Stitch Carefree Snowboarder, but I just really don't think the Criminal Mind's going to be that great at the beginning of the game. And then, of course, turn 2, we ink. If we don't get a good inkable, we can ink a Stitch Carefree Surfer, play Ursula. The next turn, of course, Akud out, a Stitch. I'm looking pretty good. Okay, we're going to practice a few on the draws. On the draw is pretty much the same game plan, except I do prioritize a couple small things. I think that obviously Angel is really strong on the draw. I mean, it has the underdog ability, so clearly that's the fact. Here we have Stitch and its shift target, and so I think we just really look for a 2-drop, but we have our 1 and our 3-drop. Angel could be really good on the draw, but I really think we just need to dig for a 2-drop here. Okay, sweet. Yeah, this is looking good. We can Stitch. We even have 2 Stitches. This is an interesting hand because we have 2 Stitches and 2 Lilo and Stitches, and so we could even consider since because opening up both the shift targets is really intriguing. If you get a double Lilo and Stitch board down, sometimes that can just win games. I think we keep our options open there and we ink Goliath, play Stitch. Turn 2, probably just play Angel to set up the Singer. But at the same time, if we really wanted to, we could even develop our Stitch. I'm not so sure. And then turn 3, we set up Lilo and Stitch and go from there. Okay, another on the draw real quick. Here we have Angel in our hand, and obviously that's the best card we can keep while on the draw. And I think what I like to do is dig for a Cood whenever we get Angel. And so I like to send back like 6 here. I don't know if this is wise, and we should probably like keep a 2-drop. So this is probably a smarter play, but if we're greedy, then we just keep Angel and we bank on getting a Cood. So I could see either one. Mowgli can be really good on the draw too, to be fair, because if they set up their Singer on turn 2, then our turn 2, we can snap their Cood out of their hand. So I don't know. That's definitely something to consider. We'll keep it for consistency's sake here. Okay, we did get a Cood. So turn 1, we can Angel. Turn 2, we can even play out an Aerial. If we want, alternatively, we could turn 2 Mowgli and then, and this is something I referenced earlier, is it's not always wise to turn 2 a Cood if you have a better 5-drop that we want to play. So it might be better to just Angel on turn 1, Mowgli on turn 2, and then turn 3 just play Lilo and Stitch. So yeah. In terms of matchup specific Mulligan advice, I'm not going to get super into detail, but there are some basic notes that I'm going to check out there. You definitely want to keep things in mind when doing matchup specific things. Obviously, if you're fighting Amber Emerald, you definitely want to be holding on to Angel's Experiment 64. If you're fighting against Ruby Amethyst, then you want to keep World's Greatest Criminal Mind because that's really, really strong in that matchup. Or if you're fighting against Amber Emerald Songs that can Akud out Chernabogs, you generally want to avoid Akuding out a 5-drop. And so just try to keep smaller guys so you can spread out wide and be able to lessen their effects of their Chernabog. And so that means maybe not keeping the Lilo and Stitch shift line, things of that nature. Okay, I hope this video was helpful for you. I had a good time making it. It was fun to talk through some of my thought processes. I really want to hear yours. If you feel like my mulliganing was trash and I should be prioritizing specific cards more, let me know. If you've seen some really cool tech cards that you've introduced into your deck, let me know. I would love to hear about them. But yeah, thanks for watching. Hope this is helpful, and I'll catch you later.